Hello everyone. I'm Eric, the workplace safety guy. If you're here, it's because you understand that in our world, knowledge is the only thing that stands between us and disaster. Today, we're diving into a universe where the margin for error is zero: chainsaws. To the casual observer, it's just a cutting tool. To a professional trained under United States standards, it is a high-hazard kinetic system that demands absolute respect. If you think safety is just bureaucracy, you don't yet understand what it's like to see a 3/8-inch chain tear through ballistic fabric at 20 meters per second. My mission today is to dissect the OSHA 1910, 266 and ANSI Z133 standards. We aren't just going to read rules, we're going to understand the engineering behind survival. We'll understand why American standards are so obsessed with protocols and how this saves thousands of lives every year in the logging and arboriculture industries. What's at stake isn't just your job. It's your physical integrity and your right to go home in one piece at the end of your shift. In the United States, workplace safety is divided between federal law and technical standards of excellence. OSHA, Occupational Safety and Health Administration, sets the floor, the minimum you must do to avoid being fined or prosecuted. Standard 1910, 266 is the ironclad code for anyone working in logging and forestry operations. ANSI Z133, on the other hand, is the ceiling. It is the specific safety guide for urban arboriculture and tree maintenance. The distinction is clear. OSHA tells you that you must be protected. ANSI explains how that protection is mechanically applied. The first thing you need to understand is that, in the US, training is not optional. Section I of OSHA 1910, 266 requires every operator to be trained before their first assignment. Training must be documented and must cover site-specific safety hazards, first aid procedures, communication signaling, and the correct use of equipment. It's not enough to know how to operate. The standard requires the operator to demonstrate competence in identifying wood tension and recognizing environmental risks before pulling the starter cord. OSHA 1910, 266, D1, is not a fashion suggestion. It is a requirement for armor. Let's detail each item through the lens of safety engineering and understand why these items are mandatory at a microscopic level. Leg protection, chaps and safety pants. This is the most critical item. The standard requires leg protection to extend from the waist to the top of the boots. But the secret lies in what's inside. It's not just thick fabric. Certified pants contain layers of Kevlar, aramid, or ballistic nylon fibers. The physics here is fascinating. When the saw teeth, which can spin at over 2,800 meters per minute, cut through the outer layer, usually polyester, they snag these long, loose fibers. In milliseconds, the chain pulls these fibers into the saw's drive sprocket. The volume of fibers is so great that it instantly jams the engine. The stop time is so fast that the chain immobilizes before the teeth penetrate the operator's skin. Without this protection, a femoral laceration is almost certain in the event of an error. Head protection, ANSI Z89. 1. The helmet in arboriculture and forestry is not just for falls. It protects against the whip effect of branches under tension and against the widowmaker dead branches that break loose from the treetop due to the saw's vibration. The standard divides helmets into Type 1, designed for impacts to the top of the head. Type 2, designed for lateral, frontal, and rear impacts. In felling, Type 2 is preferred due to the unpredictability of debris. Additionally, the helmet must provide protection against electrical hazards if working near power lines, per Class E requirements. Eye, face, and hearing protection. A mesh face shield is the first line of defense against debris, but it alone is not enough. Fine wood dust passes through the mesh. Therefore, ANSI Z87. 1 requires the use of polycarbonate safety glasses under the shield. Regarding noise, a chainsaw operates between 110 and 115 decibels. According to OSHA's logarithmic scale, unprotected exposure at this level for just 15 minutes causes permanent damage. The use of muffs with an NRR noise reduction rating of at least 25 to 30 dB is what keeps your hearing functional in the long run. Kickback is the biggest killer in the world of chainsaws. It occurs in the critical zone of the guide bar tip, the upper quadrant. When the teeth in this area hit a solid object or are pinched, the cutting force is instantly converted into rotational force, throwing the bar back toward the operator's face. Mandatory mechanical defenses. American standards require active defenses that work independently of the operator's will. Inertia chain brake. This is the device that saves faces. It works via a spring-in-weight mechanism that, during a violent kickback, activates the steel band around the clutch drum, locking the chain in less than 0.1 seconds. Chain catcher. If the chain breaks under load, this pin at the base of the housing must catch it before it hits the operator's hand. If the pin is broken, the machine must be taken out of service immediately. Low kickback chains. Green label designed with safety links that prevent the cutting tooth from diving too deep into the wood at the bar tip. Gasoline is fuel, but it's also a fire hazard. OSHA prohibits fueling with the engine running or hot. Additionally, there is the 10-foot rule. 3 meters. You never start the saw in the same location where you fueled it. Fuel vapors can ignite from an engine spark. Regarding starting, OSHA strictly prohibits drop starting, dropping the saw down while pulling the cord. The approved method requires 2 stable points of contact, starting on the ground or firmly between the legs. Total control is the key word. Felling a tree under OSHA 1910. 266H is a controlled engineering process. Before the first cut, you must perform a site assessment and establish the danger zone, which must have a radius of at least twice the height of the tree. Escape plans and cut geometry. Establishing an escape plan is a legal requirement. You must have at least 2 clear retreat paths at 45-degree angles opposite the planned line of fall. The goal of felling is to create a hinge. The notch defines the direction. It should have a 45 degrees to 90 degrees opening and a depth of 1/3 the diameter. The open face, 70 to 90 degrees standard, is preferred for maintaining hinge control longer during the fall. The hinge. This is the part you never cut. It should be about 10% of the trunk's diameter and acts like a door hinge. If you cut the hinge, you lose all control of the tree. The backcut must be made 1 to 2 inches above the level of the notch to create a safety step that prevents the trunk from sliding back toward the operator. The tree is on the ground, but the stored energy is still there. ANSI Z133 instructs on identifying compression and tension forces. Compression versus tension. If you cut the tension side first, the wood will splinter. If you cut the compression side carelessly, the bar will get pinched. The protocol requires relief cuts, 1/3 on compression and 2/3 on tension. Spring poles. Branches caught under a fallen tree are loaded springs. If cut incorrectly, they can snap back with lethal force. The technique requires gradual cuts to release tension slowly. Using the trunk as a shield. During limbering, keep the tree trunk between you and the branches you are removing to protect your legs. A poorly maintained chainsaw is an unguided weapon. Sharpening. Dull teeth force the operator to push the machine, causing fatigue and human error. Tooth geometry, chisel or semi-chisel, must be maintained with precision. Depth gauge. Raker determines the thickness of the wood chip. If you file it too low, the saw becomes aggressive and increases kickback risk. The standard gap is 0.25 inches. Anti-vibration system, essential to prevent Raynaud syndrome, white finger. OSHA requires rubber mounts or springs to be inspected. If vibration increases, the machine goes out of service. When we take our feet off the ground, complexity scales up. The American Golden Rule is, stay tied in at 2 points. Tie in. The anchor point must support at least 5,000 pounds, 2,267 kilograms. Rigging. The art of lowering branches with ropes. Requires a safety factor. The operator at height must coordinate every move with the groundman via radio or standard signals. The saw must be attached to the climber's belt by a lanyard to prevent accidental drops. OSHA 1910. 266I7 requires first aid kits at every worksite. In chainsaw accidents, the enemy is hypovolemic shock from arterial bleeding. Trauma kit must contain CAT tourniquets and hemostatic agents, quick clot. The tourniquet should be on your person, not in the truck. Response time for a massive bleed must be less than 4 minutes. Aerial rescue. In the event of an accident at height, the team must practice the rescue protocol annually. The groundman must be capable of climbing and lowering the injured person in record time. Teamwork. Working alone is prohibited. There must be constant communication, visual or radio, and a check-in system every 30 minutes. Signage is vital. In noisy environments, Everyone on the team must master hand signals for stop, attention, and retreat. Regarding the environment, fueling must use EPA-approved containers with anti-spill nozzles. The use of biodegradable bar oils is encouraged, but mechanical safety comes first. Viscosity must be correct to prevent chain failure from overheating. We've reached the end of this exhaustive guide. We've covered materials engineering, impact physics, federal standards, and life-or-death protocols. Working with chainsaws under American standards is about understanding that safety is the process of eliminating luck from your daily routine. If you followed this script until now, you now understand that the standards and procedures we've discussed are what keep our industry professional. Don't be the guy who learns by mistake. Be the professional who leads through technique. A chainsaw is a magnificent tool for productivity, but it has no conscience. It cuts everything it touches. The conscience must come from you. Follow the cutting angles, wear your Kevlar armor, keep your safety devices active, and never underestimate the energy stored in a tree. Your greatest indicator of success is ensuring that everyone on your team goes home with all their limbs intact. Thank you for joining me on this technical journey. I'm Eric, the workplace safety guy, and my mission is to ensure you operate like a master and live like a hero. Safety is a technical and daily choice. See you in the field.